On this episode of The Curious CEO, Shawn Kanungo will debunk common innovation myths that hinder leadership growth, dive into why innovation is important, and teach you how to inspire your team to embrace and adopt it.
The reason why the best companies are the most vulnerable to disruption is because they get really romantic about their existing processes, and it's very, very difficult to pivot and move when the environment changes around you. People always ask me, when is the change going to stop? We just went through a pandemic. You're talking about all these just different technologies. You know, the economy is the way that it is. When is the change going to stop? It's not. We have to continuously build a muscle around being innovative. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that we always think about innovation as technology. Tech is the last part of innovation. And I actually think that the dirty secret around innovation is
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Curious CEO. Today, I'm joined by a great guest, Shawn Kanungo. He served for 12 years as a senior consultant for Deloitte Canada. He specializes on strategy and innovation. He's a much sought after keynote speaker and best-selling author. And more importantly, he's a proud Canadian husband and the hardworking father of 3 young children. God bless you, Shawn. Welcome to the show.
Well, listen, it's such a pleasure to be on here. And by the way, if you got this far, I want you to rate, review, subscribe, whatever you got to do. We got to get this to 1 million subscribers. And I know you're going to get there. The Curious CEO, I'm going to put this plaque on my wall. I've been waiting my entire life to be on here, even though you just started this show this year. I'm excited.
Thanks a million, Shawn. I need you every day, actually. Actually, that's it. I just need you. I really appreciate that. You know, we're going to dive into innovation. But, you know, when you and I chatted and we first met, by referral, by the way, the great Alison Levine said to you, you got to meet this guy. And so we did, and we become fast friends. But I wanted to ask you this question because it was a question I asked you when we first met, and you had such a great answer. And I said to you, if you were explaining innovation to one of your little kids, how would you explain it?
Yeah, to me, innovation is just about doing things differently. It's about creating value in new ways. And it just means, maybe even taking a, 3% turn and trying something fundamentally new. And, it's easy to say, but it's hard to do, especially when we are so entrenched in our core day to day. And as somebody that has 3 kids, I see my kids and they are natural born innovators. They are problem solving every single day. Everything is net new to them. And, they inspire me every single day. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I loved it. It's like, just trying new things, kids. That's it. That's all we're doing. And you're right. Yeah. Kids are such a great example of it. They don't end up in the same shackles over time. But, I wanted to ask you a question, like, why is innovation important? In our businesses, as leaders, I think it's something we always have to look for the opportunities to do so. But why is it important?
Well, my belief is that if we're not innovating, then we're going to become irrelevant. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions around innovation is that we always think about innovation as technology. What is the new shiny thing that's going to come in the market? But my belief is that innovation can be seen in so many different ways. It's not just about tech. In fact, I would say that tech is the last part of innovation. It's looking at how do we improve our processes? How do we improve our talent? How do we build better partnerships? How do we improve our customer experience? How do we improve our brand? How do we improve the systems around what we're doing? I don't think it has to be about tech. And I actually think that the dirty secret around innovation is that innovation is actually 90% psychological and 10% technological. Like, technological innovations are bounded by the laws of physics and code, but psychological innovations are bounded by our own imagination. And to me, it's about thinking about how do we make things more meaningful and magical and memorable and awe-inspiring for our clients at the end of the day. So to me, innovation is a lot more than tech. And I feel like everyone can go off and innovate.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is, and I actually didn't think about that. It seems like, the word innovation is really tethered to technology these days.
Well, especially today, because you have, the exponential nature of artificial intelligence. You're hearing about that all the time. This is a space that I'm really passionate about. Cloud, mobile, software as a service. Obviously, our businesses are becoming increasingly more digital. But my belief is that when everything becomes incredibly digital, and AI driven, that actually the reverse becomes disproportionately more important. Meaning, in an AI world, actually innovating on the human elements, which is how do we make things more meaningful? How do we get our clients to trust us? Those things become more important in a AI world. So I know it sounds like innovation is just about tech, and it is a part of it, but it's really around all those other human elements. There's some things that never change. I call these things radical unchanges, which is our love for stories, our desire for status, safety, security, intimacy, relationships. These things have never changed. They have existed since the dawn of humanity. And we consistently have to innovate on those things. We have to continue to make our stories better. We have to continue to understand what status means for our clients, or how do we double down on trust and relationships. We always have to be thinking about these things, even though these behaviors have existed since the dawn of humanity.
Well, okay, now you've gotten me. You've lit some sparks in my head already. But I'll tell you this real quick. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine, he had started a startup in the tech business, and I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And I was in Northern California. I saw him at a wedding, and I was like, "How are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm doing great, and living in San Jose these days." And I said, "Oh, I'm going to be there in a week." I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I work for Facebook." And I go, "You do?" I said, "I thought you did your own thing." He goes, "Yeah, well, Facebook bought us." I go, "What was the name of your thing again?" He goes, "Instagram." So he was the first engineer. He built the product.
Wow.
His name is Shane Sweeney. I did a podcast with him. So I said, "Oh, I guess I should have known that one, Shano." So I said, "Listen, I'm going to be in San Jose. Can I come by and just kind of walk the campus? Can you show me around?" He goes, "Yeah, absolutely." So we went around and we walked around Facebook, which was very impressive. But Instagram was super impressive. But the scariest thing that happened on that tour was he brought me into this room. And this room was just whiteboards. And it looked like the inside of the movie, That Beautiful Mind, And it was just all this code and all this stuff. And I go, "What's this room?" And he goes, "This is where we come to think and dream and create. And we build things so people don't have to think and create." And it's the scariest thing I ever heard in my life.
Wow.
Because what I'm hearing you say is it doesn't have to be around technology. In fact, it can be in the little things. It can be in everything. It can be in relationships. It can be in our staff. It can be in what we say to our customers. So that was the scariest thing I ever heard in my life from a technological standpoint.
I love that. It shows you that even some of the best tech companies in the world, even some of the best innovators, I think they're always thinking about the customer, they're thinking about the client, and they're thinking about how do we innovate outside of just the tech. So I really enjoy this. Let me tell you, one of the biggest misconceptions as well when it comes to tech is that when people want to create something new, what they usually do is they get really smart people with skinny jeans and hipster glasses, and they put them in a boardroom and they say, "Go innovate, go brainstorm." And inevitably, what happens is that people come up with this like new shiny idea, this new product, this new thing that we're going to offer to the market. And I think that's the dumbest way to think about innovation. And we really should be thinking about the innovation from the human lens, and how do we make things better for our clients at the end of the day? How do we solve their deepest problems?
That's pretty. I actually want to come back to you on that. How do we balance that innovation so we don't fully disrupt our business? So hold that thought for a second, because I want to dig into that. But let me ask you this: why is it that you worked at Deloitte? You're a young fella. You had a good career at Deloitte, consulting with big organizations, and working in Deloitte in itself is a pretty impressive thing to have on your resume. And now you speak to audiences. Why are businesses and people, why can they be reluctant to innovate?
It's so funny that you're asking me this question. Yesterday, I had one of the most memorable moments of my life. Yesterday, I did a keynote for Deloitte at the Toronto office. This is an office that I've been to 100 times.
Wow.
And it was a very small group. It was just their senior leadership group. And I was there for 12 years. I left in 2018. They wanted me to come back to them to talk about how I can help them innovate and disrupt their business. And they paid me for the 90 minutes that I had. And they paid me probably more during that time than I would have got, working there for like, half a year, which was remarkable. And it was a incredible moment for me, because even at like an organization like Deloitte, they get stuck in their ways. And what I say that, and I said this to Deloitte at the time, is that the reason why it's tough to innovate, even like a company like Deloitte that's actually helping organizations to go off and innovate, is because it's not because they don't have great talent or great teams or great resources. In fact, some of the smartest, most brilliant people work at some of the best companies in the world. But the reason why the best companies are the most vulnerable to disruption is because they get really romantic about their existing processes and their existing business model. And it's very, very difficult to pivot and move when the environment changes around you, and they get caught. And some of the best leaders, organizations get caught because they get really romantic about what's working today. They get really romantic about what was working in the past. And it's very difficult to change and move when the environment changes around you. And so it's like your own ego, your own status, you're so entrenched in what you were successful in that is very difficult to move.
Yeah, no, so true. I mean, you think about it, all of us, and so many people on this call today they're entrepreneurs, and they work so hard to be successful. And part of being, then same as Buffini and Company, we've at times gotten trapped in our successful systems, our successful business model. And it does eliminate kind of innovation, because you're actually unintentionally, I've found, playing for safety at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. So listen, when we had this call, you had this great analogy that actually blew my mind as somebody that has spent his entire career in strategy and innovation. You had this incredible analogy between a speedboat and a yacht, or a cruise ship. Sorry. Can you explain to the audience what you described to me between what a speedboat versus a cruise ship is?
Yeah, no, well, appreciate you remembering. I don't remember that, but as Buffini and companies, we've grown over the years. As when you're when you're a person of like, you're just on your own. We started this. It was Brian and a couple of the brothers, and we were just running around the country, and we're kind of just talking to people, and we could move like a speedboat. And then as the speedboat pulled up and we went to a town, we got some customers. And then we went to the next one, and then we realized we got to take care of these customers, and they all fit in the speedboat. And so after a while, you've got this cruise ship called Buffini and Company. And Buffini and Company is a service organization in the coaching business. And all of our customers are on the cruise ship. And we're trying to entertain them, feed them, make sure they're safe. We're delivering excellence to them. But occasionally, we've tried and make Buffini and Company move like a speedboat. Like, let's move faster. And it's like, well, we can't move faster. We're a cruise ship now. If you want to change direction 1 degree, we have to plan for that 22 miles from now. Yeah. And that creates a lot of tension between a founder, entrepreneurial Irish Italians who want to go conquer the world, and a cruise ship that's like, hey, we're doing our job. So I think one of the things we talked about, what we've learned is we've got to use both. We've got to let the cruise ship be the cruise ship, but the speedboat's got to go to the next port and prepare for when the ship comes into port. Does it have the licenses? Does it have the resources? Does it have, do we have what we need so that the ship can stay in motion? So I think what I was saying that day was like, I've learned that the business is the cruise ship, but we've got to use the speedboat for strategy so we can move quickly towards it, and not try and ask the business to do that at the same time. So I think that's what we were talking about.
That's what you said, and I think that is such an incredible analogy. And I think this is a great, the people that are watching this, they are inspiring leaders, or they're leaders or entrepreneurs in their business. I love this idea, because I think the best way of disrupting yourself, I mean, it's very difficult to do. You can't, to disrupt yourself at once, to change what you are doing today, especially when you're successful, is very difficult to do. And I actually wouldn't recommend just changing everything at once. I love the speedboat approach. I call it denting the outside, which is let's say you have your business, you have your core. This is the value that you drive for your clients and your customers. But I feel that you should always be denting the outside of your core. It should be running, small problems with small teams and small experiments, and trying to continuously innovate outside of the core of what you do. You might find a different way of running or doing your customer experience, or how you position your brand, or how you run your processes using new and novel technologies like artificial intelligence. And you're constantly experimenting outside of the core, and you're building a muscle around innovation. That's what I believe. And then ultimately, if you find a winner, then you move that as part of the core of what you do. But you shouldn't change everything at once, because what happens is the immune system of the company rejects it, right? You can't change the cruise ship all at once, because it's just gonna everyone is gonna like push it off. And so I love this idea of continuously denting and building this muscle around innovation, because that's how you're gonna go and continue to be relevant in the market.
Yeah, I love that, because I was going to ask you, you've answered the question, like, how do you get someone like Deloitte, a big company? Because it doesn't matter how big the company is or how small the team is, it's the same principles. So you get them to innovate by taking some really controlled, planned risks or ideas. It might feel like a risk for some people, but what I'm hearing you say is like creating some space to try the new thing.
Yeah. So my belief is that one of the greatest catalysts for change is through play. Like incentivizing your team, incentivizing the people around you with a very low stakes environment where they can explore and experiment is actually a greater catalyst to change than anything that I've ever seen. I've been across hundreds of different organizations, and I've seen what moves people. And we talk about mission and vision and purpose and all these great things, but actually getting people to play with new technologies, new environments, trying new ways of things actually changes behavior. I'll give you a simple example. I did something crazy a couple of weeks ago. I'm very passionate about this AI space. So I put out a social media message saying, anybody that lives in my province in Canada called Alberta, if you breathe, I don't care how old you are, I don't care how young you are, if you breathe in Alberta, I will pay you to use AI. Meaning not, and I'll actually double it. Meaning if a tool costs $200, I will give you $400 to use the tool. Now, the only caveat is I want you to show me what you built in a month. And so I sent out this message to all my social media followers. I have tens of thousands of social media followers. There's millions of people that are in my region. This could have went wrong in a second for my bank account. And the first person that messaged me, by the way, was my wife. She was like, "What are you doing?" But and by the way, as of 2 weeks ago, I was wiring people $50 to $500 a piece to random people on the internet that I've never met in my entire life. Now, why would I do this? The reason why I did this is because if you give people license to play, if you give people license to do something, to try something new, going back to what we talked about, what innovation is all about, it actually is the greatest catalyst for change. And you're giving people permission to fail. You're giving people permission to experiment. And I don't care about what people build. Actually, I met somebody this weekend. He's like, "Why did you do this experiment? I don't get it. What do you want out of it? What are you trying to get out of it?" I'm like, "I'm not trying to get anything. I don't care about the outcome. I don't care about the deliverable. I don't care what they're trying to build. I want to see the transformation within. I want to see that they actually went and did something hard and learned something about themselves. That is one of the greatest ways of changing someone's behavior."
So are you saying create the environment to make failure fun?
I'm saying create the environment where people are willing to take shots, make it fun, give them permission to go off and fail. And if you reward in an environment where people want to take shots, then guess what? They will take more shots. I'll give you an example of this. I was at Deloitte and had a great leader that I work with. His name is Dalibor Petrovic. And we were at a senior leaders meeting, people across the country, leaders across the country, and I was leading innovation across the region. And he wanted to praise the work that I was doing in innovation. Now, truth be told, most of the innovations that I had were failures. They were ambitious attempts, crazy experiments. They were a long list of failures. And what he did was he got everybody to stand up in that particular room and give me a standing ovation. This was the first standing ovation that I've ever got in my entire life. And I thought to myself, man, they're giving me a standing ovation for failing. And I didn't understand it at the time. But then later, I realized that if you reward the people that are taking shots, they will take more shots. And I believe that the greatest way of creating what I call high agency people, like people that are willing to go above and beyond, people that are willing to take risk, take experiments, take initiative. They don't ask for permission. They just get things done. High agency people, they need two things. They need an environment where they're willing to take experiments and take risks, and an environment where they're deeply cared for. And I think when you combine those two things, you create an environment of innovation and people that are of high agency. So I believe in this so passionately.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant. Making it fun, giving them license. Let me ask you this, because I think at times it can be too easy to, well, it didn't work, so let's not do it again. Yeah. And I'm sure there's no specific timeline and formula, because just because it's a good idea and it didn't work the first time you tried it, it doesn't mean that you should give up on the idea, I'd imagine. How long, like, what's your next thing? Let's say you're doing that with me and I try something, I come back and go, Shawn, I created a dent, I went for it and it didn't work. And I feel like I kind of let things down, but I got it. It's supposed to be fun and I want to do it again. What do I do next? Do I quit? Do you get me to try it again? What's the process of evaluation? If you evaluate, and should you keep going with this idea?
Yeah. To me, it's about continuously learning. If you are failing and you're not learning anything new, then you should stop immediately. But if you continue to fail, but you learn something new, then I believe that's a positive experiment, because you're learning something over and over again. I see so many people try something new and they don't try anything again. And I think you learn something through that suck. You learn something through the resilience and the perseverance of going and doing hard things. And the natural progression of an innovator actually looks like a joke. You look like a joke for months, for even years, and then finally something works, and then it's a rocket ship. And so you have to go through that perseverance. And that's why I believe innovation is not about the outcomes. It's not about the new revenue, new products, new tech, new savings, whatever you're going to get. It's actually about your identity. It's like, are you willing to suffer? And you have to ask yourself, are you willing to have the longest view in the room? Meaning, are you willing to see the long-term benefits of your failures? Are you willing to go through that suffering? And that's what I feel what an innovator is. It's someone that is actually willing to suffer for a very long time and learn over that time.
You give some examples in your book of people who had to persevere over a long period of time. I think one of them is Dyson.
Yes. Yeah. Dyson
vacuum cleaners and hand dryers and all that stuff.
Hundreds of it, like the most failures of all time, the most experiments taken of all time, like thousands of different experiments before he found a winner. And that's an extreme example. And of course, there's going to be anomalies like that. But it's just the idea of if he was romantic about the outcome, then he would have stopped immediately, because he didn't get the outcome that he wanted. But it was the journey that he appreciated, and the fact that he was trying to solve, a particular problem. And if you're passionate about the problem, if you are okay with failing, that's where, you build this muscle of being an innovator. So yeah,
it worked out all right for him, didn't it?
I think so. I think it worked all right.
This is going to reveal too much about me, but as you're talking, I think of the great Irish philosopher Conor McGregor, who said you're either winning or you're learning.
Love that.
Let me ask you this.
By the way, this Conor McGregor, I learned something really interesting about Conor McGregor. I watched his documentary, and I think it's on Netflix. And it's this idea that to build this mindset of being a winner, he he would train really hard during practice, but then he would cheat a little bit, right? Like he would eat that extra potato chip, or he would sleep in a little bit more. And it was like all those little things added up. And it's the reason why he wasn't, legendary. And the things that made him really legendary are the things that to never cheat himself. And there's some things that we can learn from somebody like Conor McGregor. And
I agree.
I got that one piece. I got that one piece from him.
I need to lay off the potato chips, that's for sure.
Hey, by the way, I don't want to let this go before this pod is done. But you also told me something during our pre-call that I think about all the time that I've never seen someone sort of document. You actually pulled out a sheet, and it relates really well with innovation. It's this philosophy of above the line versus below the line, and this idea that there are characteristics that we should be focusing on that are above the line, whether it's like promoting positive growth or aligning with our natural talents. And there's some things that are below the line that, bring us down, like our, whether it's confusion or toxicity or whatever. Can you just, it was so prophetic for me. I would love for you to just, if you can, break it down for this group around above the line and below the line, because I think that's where above the line is where innovators really live. But this is not my analogy, so I'd love for you to break it down.
Well, and a lot of the folks who are our clients around here, we had our leadership conference, and I kind of dug into this. And this is kind of like, I know there's no new ideas under the sun, but this is something I've been thinking about for about a year and a half for Buffini and Company, which way innovation and strategy, and what are you dreaming about, where are you trying to get to, and what does it look like to optimize your business and your life? And then that's kind of above the line. Below the line is all the stuff it just takes my time, energy, and talent that wastes my talent. It steals my joy. So got to be aware of what conversations they are, what habits I have that bring me below the line, conversations and people that bring me below the line. And then same way as above the line, I got above the line people who help you dream. They help you go, well, what about this? Or they might say, you don't have to innovate that. Somebody else already did that. You just need to apply that in your business. The piece that I learned, which is the most important line, is the line itself. Because this is where our habits and routines are in place. Like innovation, like I'm here saying, that should be at the line. It needs to be in our calendar. It needs to be budgeted for. It needs to have some create space so that we can create above the line ideas and, again, result in serving our customers. So what I was sharing at the leadership conference was the line is everything, because that's where you're going to win. Because at the line is where your best routines are, your best habits. It's where you draw the line between, nope, don't go there. Don't go there. It's coaching. That's what our coaches do for our clients. It's like, Shawn, but you want this. I know. Why are you there? I don't know. It's what I do. So it has resonated. It's certainly helped me as a CEO to kind of look at those three categories a lot of times to see where I'm operating. And what the great thing is, inside of our organization, our other leaders will say things like, that's so below the line, let's not even talk about it. Let's get back to the line. What's missing? What process do we need to get better in? What conversation do we need to have? Do we have the right people in place? So that we can continue to give ourselves time to dream above the line, where we can optimize our business, play to our strength, and provide more value as an organization and individuals in the world. So that's kind of, that was the gist of it. But it's something that's become part of my, as a thinking process, communication process, leadership process, and now we're taking that on as an organization. And innovation, again, fits right into that. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you are playing above the line, you're playing to your strengths. You're being creative. You're focusing on your gifts, your talents, and I think that's where innovation really breathes. And so I love, by the way, I love this analogy so much. And I said this to you on the call, like, this is like I was getting like Simon Sinek sort of start with why sort of vibes, where it was so clean, it was so simplistic as a concept that I couldn't stop thinking about it. So
Well, I'm an Irishman. I
actually,
have to keep it simple. Like I have no option.
there you go.
Let me ask you something, because you mentioned it earlier, and I think I heard you say, I heard you gave the answer, but I think this is super important because I think it's very easy for us to come back from the mountaintop experience at the event or beginning of the year. And it's like, it's all going to be different. I can see clearly now. And our teams and our business are going, oh, here he goes again. What's this going to look like? You said it earlier. How do we balance the innovation in a way that it doesn't become the shiny object syndrome? Like what's practical ways that we can really keep that in front of us?
Yeah.
Does above the line, below the line help with that? What's been your experience with that?
So I think to me, innovation is actually a mindset. It's a lifestyle. It's always it's always taking a look at how can we continuously improve. It's taking a step back and saying, why do we do things the way that we do? And having that North Star, having that mission around what is my business focused on and how are we serving our clients. I think that core mission as to why you exist should never change. That's the core of why you exist. But I think everything else is fair game. And I think especially with technology changing the way that it is, I think it's healthy to continuously try to ask the question, why? And sometimes you don't have to ask the question. Sometimes maybe things, they don't change and things are working the way that they are. But I think it's always great to come back and say, ask the question, why do we do things the way that we do? Is there a better process of going about and doing this? Can we continue to build a muscle when it comes to experimentation and innovation? And the reason why you want to build a muscle is because, it's funny. People always ask me, when is the change going to stop? We just went through a pandemic. You're talking about all these just different technologies. The economy is the way that it is. When is the change going to stop? It's not.
Never.
Change is never going to stop. It's going to get even more uncertain. So in a world of increasingly uncertainty, we have to continuously build a muscle around being vulnerable to disruption and being, accept the fact that it's going to happen so that we can build a muscle around being innovative. And the only way to building a muscle around being innovative is you constantly have to ask questions why. You constantly have to try and be curious and experimental around new things that are coming out. And once you build a muscle around that, you'll be able to navigate those waters in the best way possible. And we saw this during the pandemic. The companies that already built a muscle about being nimble and flexible and experimental, they're the ones that won. And the companies that were nostalgic, they had difficulty moving forward and pivoting. And so to me, it's always constantly building this mindset around innovation.
Well, I love it. And I love that just simplicity of innovate around your customer. What do they need? How do you make it better? Challenge yourself. What can we do better? How can we maybe be curious? Maybe we could all be the curious CEO. So anyway, I think that's absolutely fantastic. You've got so many great thoughts, but it's not just thoughts or theory, it's application points, which is I love. And I love your energy. I really can't thank you enough for taking the time here today. We're going to head backstage in a few minutes to talk with our leadership coaching clients. Are you good with hanging on? Because I know we're going to have a ton of questions.
I would love it. And, we didn't even get to the AI topic, which I think is changing every single industry, but I'm happy to answer some of those AI questions in the chat too.
See, this is the thing with what I want people to know about you. You've got, and I hope you'll go and pick up Shawn's book, The Bold Ones. Great read, great stuff. Go to ShawnKanungo.com. Check him out on YouTube. This guy has great thoughts when it comes to AI and technology, and I love his advice on it and how we can utilize it and what it means. So, you know what? There's a lot more under the hood with this man. So, Shawn, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you. We'll go backstage in a few minutes. For everyone else, thank you for joining me on The Curious CEO. We'll be back next month with Ken Coleman, who's the host of the Ken Coleman Show, one of Dave Ramsey's personalities. He's got some great content, great information. Ken talks to people like your team members and those people that you're leading, and he knows what's on their mind, what they're thinking about in their job and in their careers, and he's going to give us his best advice how we can make those answers and lead our people well. So till next time, stay curious, my friends.
Thank you for joining us on this month's Curious CEO. If you're ready to take your leadership to the next level, maybe it's time for you to work with a Buffini certified leadership coach. Our coaches will help you identify and leverage your natural leadership style, develop a strong organizational culture, improve recruiting and retention, and increase the profitability of your business. And among the benefits of our leadership coaching membership is a backstage pass to the Curious CEO that allows you to ask your questions directly to Dermot and his amazing guests. If you'd like to see if Buffini leadership coaching is right for you, schedule your complimentary leadership consultation using the URL on your screen.